joined now by the one and only, the MVP of Super Bowl 22, the legend and a senior vice president of development for the Washington Redskins, Doug Williams. Doug, thank you for being with us. You said in that piece that we just saw, there's still a long way to go. What do you mean by that?
You know, when I say a long ways to go, I think the guys that are playing today, that are starting, you can't deny those guys. They're going to play anyway. I think we got to get more backup that are being in a position like the Doug Peterson and the Kubiaks that end up being coaches in this league. And they always backup. They wasn't full-time players. They was on that sideline with their clipboard, and they was there for a long time. I think we got to get some of the black quarterbacks to be around a long time. Usually, if you're not starting, you're not on the football team.
And we'll talk about coaches later, but the evolution of the black quarterback over the last half century, from just 2 in the league in 1969 to where we are now, what's it been like for you to witness that up close?
This year has been unbelievable for me because, you know, I came out in 1978 and James Harris and Vince Evans was the guys. Unfortunate, Warren Moon had to go to the Canadian League just off the MVP in the Rose Bowl, and he went to the Canadian League. But for me, this year has been satisfying from the standpoint of being able to watch so many young guys get an opportunity to play. And just last week, when you look at the playoff, 4 out of 8 teams had quarterbacks of color in the playoffs.
I want to go back to what you were alluding to when you brought up the backup quarterback, because essentially when you're talking about a starter, what we're saying is their talent speaks for itself. It cannot be denied. But is that applicable to the backup quarterback, or are we talking about politics inserting itself into the mix where you have guys that may be getting jobs as backups because of their relationships with the people, as opposed to whether or not their skill set actually demands that they be in that position?
I think everybody that's sitting up here know, if you watch football over the years, you've seen enough backup quarterbacks that you say, what is he doing in the league? And I know there are some guys that deserve an opportunity to probably play as well or better than the guys that have gotten those opportunities. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they become friends of the starting quarterback, and they look at it in their room who gets along. But the most important thing, if you don't put people in the room, you don't know whether they get along. But it's the mindset of the coaches and everybody who they put in the room with the starting quarterback that become real good friends, and those guys smart enough to know, if I'm friend to the starting quarterback and I'm there when he come off the sideline, I'm sitting with him, we go out to golf together, we play together, you're going to stay around a long time.
Doug, it's an honor to have a conversation with a guy who is a literal glass ceiling breaker. But I'm curious, how many times throughout your career were you told you couldn't, shouldn't, or wouldn't play quarterback?
Well, you know, I was fortunate from a standpoint. I played for a guy by the name of Eddie Robinson. I was fortunate I had an older brother. I was fortunate I had a James Harris in my life. James Harris came back all the time. To Grambling. Come back all the time. To Willie Brown. All those guys came back, and they saw us play. And Coach Robinson was a guy that never use the color black. He never told us one time that because you're black, you couldn't do this. He made sure to understand that if you can block, you can tackle, you can play at Grambling State University, you can play it anywhere. The most important thing was to get an opportunity. I remember when I came out in '78, I told Coach Robinson, and I had this mentality that if I didn't get drafted in the 3rd round, I was going to go do what I wanted to do. I wanted to be like my oldest brother, Robert. I wanted to be a coach. I was going to go to high school. Coach Robert said, nah. He said, hey, Cat, you can't do that. Hell, you got to show them that you deserve to be in the league. And that's how he looked at it. And James Harris never came back and said, hey, man, and he had a tough time when he was in Buffalo in 1969. But not one time he came back and said, hey, man, it's going to be tough for you because you're black. It never was like that.
I think sometimes when we talk about the lack of black quarterbacks, especially historically, we dance around the reasons why. And there are a number of reasons. There's socioeconomic reasons. I think there's outright bias, coded language. But also, there are a lot of black quarterbacks, younger, who have been told to change positions. We talk a lot about Lamar Jackson being, the case study for that, but it goes back so much earlier than that. It goes to high school. It goes to elementary school. Do you see that changing now that there are more success stories at the highest levels of the league?
Well, I think the most important guy this year was Lamar Jackson. But I think we all got to take our hats off, number one, to Ozzie Newsome and Coach Harbaugh and his offensive coordinator to come up with a plan to get the best out of Lamar Jackson. And, you know, when you see another Lamar Jackson coming out of college now, they're going to take the game plan of Baltimore. They're not going to worry about switching him to another position. They're going to say, let's see what Baltimore did.
And even everything he did in college, there was skepticism about him. Now, we all agree, Doug, that this has been in many ways the year of the black quarterback, but it has not been the year of the black head coach in the NFL. And you're a senior executive at an NFL team. What's going on? I mean, you talked about, you know, young quarterbacks not getting those opportunities to come up through the coaching ranks, but it's more than that.
It's hard to believe sitting here today that Eric Bieniemy is not a head coach in the National Football League. And to me, I think that's a black eye to the NFL, you know, because I think rightfully so, he deserved. You can't use the excuse that he didn't call plays because, like you stated earlier, and all around town, is that it's two coaches that left Andy Reid that are head coaches that didn't call plays.
Yeah, I know Mina's going to talk about that later in the show in her parting shot. Doug, it's really been an honor. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining us
My
here
pleasure.
on Outside the Lines.
See.
Everyone, thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, more analysis, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus. We'll see you there.